Hello, everybody.
Hey, Carlos. All right, Dale, go ahead.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. My name is Jared Kingston, one of the MVPs who helps lead the office hours here, joined by Jackie Travieso as well as Dale Ziegler. You guys want to say hi?
Hello, all.
Good afternoon or good morning.
All right. Well, we're happy to have. Right. That's interesting. So we're happy to have everybody on the call today. One of the things we like to call out at the beginning are the other community events happening around you. And as the start of the new year has hit us, all the things are ahead of us. And the first of those being Tahoe Dreamin', which I know myself and Jackie will be out at, as well as a whole slew of other MVPs. So hope to see some of you out there. But as you can see, there are a lot of other ones coming up around the globe, really. And I would love to go to Punta Dreamin'. That sounds amazing. Or Dream Away. I mean, all of them, really. So definitely check those events out if they're in your area, or if you can make the trip. I definitely recommend them. So good to call those out. Oh, Northeast Dreamin', that we need to add on there, coming close to the end of the year.
Is that an inaugural event?
It is indeed.
Fantastic. We'll add that.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Yes, it's very exciting. We have a date, we have a venue, we have an organizing committee. We are almost a legal entity, so we're really just kind of foundational. And we're starting with attendance goal of 500, so it's a good size event.
That's a lofty goal. Congratulations. Now, is that a nonprofit only event, or is that whole audience?
Whole ecosystem. So
Fantastic.
Similar to the other Dreaming events like Midwest Dreaming or Texas or Southeast, we're not reinventing the wheel. We're going to take the best from what other people are doing and then try to find some ways to sort of incrementally make it more exciting and engaging based upon what we've learned from the other Dreaming organizers.
Awesome. Fantastic.
Nice.
Congratulations.
That's great. Awesome. All right, so moving on here. Can we go to the next slide there, Dale?
Oh, Jared, before you go on, Philly Force is usually in April or May, according to Michael. Michael, thank you for sharing that.
Oh, yeah, Philly Force as well.
We'll look for those.
There are plenty to choose from, that's for sure. No shortage of events. All right, so if this is your first time, just a kind of quick recap of what MVP Office Hours is and what we're about. So we do this the first and third Friday of each month normally. Just a call out that we will, right now we're not doing it the third Friday of this month due to some scheduling conflicts. So our next call is scheduled for 2/2. That could always change, and if so, definitely follow us on Twitter as well as the Trailblazer community. We'll post out there the session signups. But the preface of it is it's an open Q&A discussion, right? So we have some MVPs here, and we're here to help you with approaches, pointers. We'll try to answer your question as best as possible. Hopefully solve it. If we can't, we'll try to point you in the right direction and get you going. We post this recording out to the community and Twitter via YouTube, so you can certainly go to YouTube and subscribe to our channel to get the recordings directly pushed out to you, so that you don't have to hunt it down every time. So because it's open, we just ask you to mute your lines so that we can easily hear questions and answers. And when you are answering as well as asking, just announce yourself, right, so we know who we're talking to. I mean, we can see it, but it's always good to hear a name with a voice. So And just because you may not be an MVP doesn't mean your experiences aren't warranted. So if you feel like you can help out, certainly throw something out there. This is for everyone to help everyone, essentially. So, and then we'll post any resources that come up during the call. We'll record those here and we'll post those out to the community as well. So with that being said, I think we have maybe one more slide before we get going. One of the things we're trying to do is get information to you in an easier fashion. So we have a site, mvpofficehours.info. It holds all the information you need for all the different MVP Office Hours groups that we have. So right now, actively, we have US EMEA. APAC is right coming on board, working on scheduling that session. And then the latest one to really get going is Portuguese. So Carlos, who's on the call, is going to be heading up that group. We're really excited about that starting later this month. And then we have Espanol and students and nonprofit coming soon right after that, as you can see. So definitely check out that site. There you can get the information there. You can also subscribe to our email list, which will just all that really gets you is an email for signing up for each MVP Office Hours. So if you want to get that via email and you don't want to track it down in other ways, go out to the site and subscribe there. And I think that's pretty much it.
A pro tip though on signing up for our office hours, at least, is the link to the registration site is static. So if you bookmark that, you can go in right after this call, sign up for the next one, theoretically. Safe harbor.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, all of the different signups are all static, so they won't change, and if they do, we'll let you know. But yeah, we've made them so that they stay the same. So we'll just add additional sessions onto there. So yeah, definitely bookmark that. And you know, if you're interested in any of the other sessions, definitely go, subscribe. You can subscribe to really any of them. So when you go subscribe, you can pick whether you want to do EMEA or US or Portuguese or any of those. So hopefully that helps you out. And feel free to pass along any feedback, right? So we're trying to make it easy to get this out to you. So, all right.
So we have a quick question about the nonprofit group that everyone just saw on the slide. It's not going to be any different. It's actually going to be the question was how will the nonprofit MVP office hours be different than the Power of Us Hub office hours? And actually, it won't be. This is just giving the Power of Us Hub visibility on the global website, because not everybody knows about it. So just a little bit more visibility. I'm working with Carolyn Renard to get that published and get you guys more visibility so that we can funnel more nonprofit users your way as well. So, and if I could just say something about the students group, which is kicking off their first call on 2/2. Salesforce is running a student pilot group where they've gone into several colleges, universities, and started this club basically for students who want to learn about Salesforce, who want to get more information about career advice in the Salesforce world, the Salesforce ecosystem. So we thought it might be a good idea to kick off a student MVP office hours call as well. And when that gets kicked off, there'll be links on that student page. So if you happen to have a student in a school that is participating, you can, or is the school may not be participating, but you might want to make a recommendation that they are included. All of that information will be listed there. So if you have a student, know a student, or know somebody who has students, keep that in mind, because I think it's going to be a really great tool for them, a great resource. So with that, back to you, Jared.
Awesome. No, that's great information. Thanks, Jackie. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So I know that we already had, Marty was all over things and already queued up a question off the call on the group. So wanted to go ahead and tackle that one. Looks like, Dale, you have that up there on the screen. So if we go to that question here. So change set issues does not seem to delete certain items that were deleted in the from, only updates and adds. Is there a better method to go from sandbox to production? So can you give us kind of maybe it was in the group there, but just kind of what you're looking to delete?
Yep. So I've taken over a project of implementing Service Cloud from someone who doesn't work there anymore and started the project in production. So there's a lot of things in the case record, for example, a lot of fields that are not needed, some record types, some of the fields that are in the case types, such as both standard fields and custom fields, have pick list where we only need half the values. So I did this once where I went from sandbox A to sandbox B, and now what I'm finding is some things were not deleted or changed, such as pick list values, and some other I have some other record type issues because they set up multiple record types where we don't need them, etc. So I think my highest level question is, if everything is, there's no code involved, it's all basically, I'll call it Salesforce metadata, is there a better way than change sets, A, and B, am I correct that it doesn't delete things that I need then to go in manually and delete them?
So answer to B is no. To my knowledge, there's no way to delete things via change sets. And it seems a little like it's always been kind of weird, ambiguous, confusing that like you take a pick list, you take a pick list field, when you load it into a change set, you think you are taking that state that you just made it be in that sandbox, and you are replacing. You would think. You would think.
Yeah.
But no, because I'm trying to figure out how to explain this. Essentially, production thinks, well, you didn't tell me to get rid of it, therefore I'm not going to get rid of it. I'm just going to absorb what you just added.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But yeah, totally. Yeah, you're totally correct. But of course, you didn't let me tell you what to get rid of. So.
Exactly. One easy workaround, if you have access to it. And when I was a customer admin, I wasn't able to install applications on my desktops. But like in Eclipse or any other way that you can get to the XML, if you're comfortable in that environment, it is kind of developer-y, but you can essentially trim down your pick list options per field and in the XML code, copy that from Sandbox, paste it in production, refresh, and then Salesforce is only going to look at what's in the XML, which is what you told it to be the net result of. A little less of a safety net, but that is a way to do it.
Yeah, thank you. No, I'm not that comfortable, and I'm a consultant.
Yeah. I don't blame you.
Yeah, and it's not that big a deal. It's just X number of more steps to do.
Absolutely.
The other thing that I always consider is, if I'm going to delete pick list values, am I actually deleting them, or am I replacing that value with some other standardized value and collapsing them? And if that is the case, what am I doing with my existing data as well?
So there is no, good point. This is the case fields, and there is no existing data. So I'm trying to make this initially as clean as possible. Okay. And some of the values there are literally duplicates, like two closed, one that has a suffix that is meaningless. So, and one that says S. So it just, I could go
so when you're checking your data just to confirm that those values are not on any records, you want to run a report that gives you every single record.
Yeah, there are no records.
Okay.
Yeah, and because anything there is, we're going to delete before we start using it. So, yeah.
Then you're safer that way.
Safe. Yeah, exactly.
You just don't want to rely on whatever the pick list values are currently set, because if there are if values have been previously deleted, but that value's still been left on the record, you wouldn't know that unless you ran a report of every single record and did a sort.
So
Right.
not that I would ever advocate for developing straight into production, but what else is going on in your sandbox at this time that if you're on an object that doesn't have any data,
Oh,
could you
so-
just make the changes in production and then just refresh your sandbox and you're only touching it once? Or do you have other stuff going on in sandbox?
So yeah, there's other stuff going on, and because some of this is, shall we say, not the cleanest thing, I'm just not comfortable doing that till it's been and on top of it, some of the issues and way they did it, they didn't speak to any of the customer service people. So there's just too many changes that need to be made.
Right. Tragically,
I've
that
already,
makes
yeah,
total sense.
I've already built the sandbox. I'm just in my and I've actually built it twice for a different reason, but I'm just in my final little tweaking of it, and I just want to be sure there's not something I'm missing and a better way to do it.
Absolutely. Now, tragically, that is actually the norm of you're inheriting something that nobody asked about to begin with. So you're the pioneer to make it right. So that's a very common thing. So good luck.
And yeah, Corey has put some notes in the chat. Corey, do you want to talk about the toolkit that you provided a link to? I don't know. If you're talking, I can't hear you. Oh, hold on. Maybe I muted you. There we
Oh, I'm back.
There we
Sorry.
go. That was me, sorry.
The Eclipse IDE that was mentioned, that's really great. That's a very powerful tool. It's more kind of developer friendly than consumer friendly. Definitely takes a fair amount of learning to become good at using the Eclipse IDE. It's very powerful. However, there's this free tool from the community, from the Salesforce Toolkit, which is on Heroku. So it's not even installed. You just go to the website and run the tools that are available there. My favorite tool there is called Org Compare, and that can be used to compare the metadata on any two Salesforce orgs, whether they're related or not. But the most common, mainstream use of that would be comparing a sandbox org to your production org at the point when you're trying to do some deployments. And that way, it's a really quick way to light up any kind of conflicts that might exist between the two.
That's fabulous.
It's great. And it drills right down to a stereo view, so you can see, kind of left side, right side, what's different. And then you can see what's unique, what's in conflict. We use this every time we go to do a full sandbox refresh. We use this to catch all of the things that people have been working on that may not have been promoted. So we can go through and say, hey, I see these changes you made. When we refresh the sandbox, you're going to lose that work, which tends to cause people to, kind of scramble and say, oh, wait, no, this isn't the right time to do that deployment. But it's a great way you can compare that for developer orgs to full sandbox or full sandbox to prod, really any two orgs. And it's very easy to use, not installed, and it creates a shareable link. Sorry about that. Creates a shareable link that you can send out to other people so other people can look at the comparison if you have a question. So these are some of my favorite features about it.
Oh yeah, I just saw it. That's fabulous. Thank you very much.
All right. Yeah, no, that's a great tool set for sure. All right, let's see here. Any questions in the chat? All right. No questions in the chat. Who else has a question?
If you do have questions, please raise your hand in the participant window. I've muted a lot of people because we were getting some background noise, so I want to make sure that I unmute the right people. I'm not seeing any hands go up at this time.
So if nobody has any questions right now, I do have a little bit of filler. So in the last office hours call, what was it, December 15th, month, whatever, somebody had posed a question about the time field, which got us down the path of time versus date time and time being a beta field and all that kind of stuff. I actually had an opportunity to have a call with the Salesforce product manager over custom schema yesterday, which encompasses time fields. And there's a lot of cool stuff coming out in that. Big thing that, if it's worth anything for anybody, the time field assumes you are entering it as Greenwich Mean Time, UTC.
Oh. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Because the time field, because there is no date. Like one of the questions that we had was, why is it not localized to the user's time zone like a date field or a date time field is? Well, it's because there isn't a date. So it has to treat it as a static time, but it can then be leveraged in like a date time field. Well, then it has to become localized. So they made a decision and said UTC on a static time field. So for what that is worth.
Very cool. Looks like Marty has a question. Marty, I'm going to unmute you now.
Thank you. So I don't know if anybody knows the answer to this. I'm so anxious. I can't wait till tomorrow when the sandboxes get updated. But as I said, this is a Service Cloud implementation. And currently in Winter 18, you cannot use a email template in a macro. So I don't know if that's going to be fixed tonight in the Spring 18 release. But if it's not, does anybody know of a workaround other than having a person go back to Classic, execute the macro, and come back, which is not a good solution?
Does anyone have experiences with macros?
Ooh.
You might have stumped us, Marty.
Yeah.
I do not, but I have a colleague that has, and let me see if I can find that. He made a blog post about it.
Oh, cool.
So let me
Yeah, you can do
see
it
if I
in
can
Classic.
hunt it down.
Yeah, you can do it in Classic. You in the Spring release notes. Oh, so you have it.
That looks like a lightning screenshot to me.
Yeah, so if I go to the top, it looks like this is Spring 18 release notes.
Mm-hmm.
So it will, hopefully it'll be solved tonight.
Hopefully, yeah.
Perfect. That would be fabulous.
If the attachment was uploaded in Salesforce Classic, add it to a Salesforce Classic template, then apply it to macro. Same applies Lightning experience. Add the attachment to a Lightning email template. Simply click insert attachment. So I'm not seeing anything that says this is Classic only. And of course, the screenshots would indicate that it's good to go.
Perfect. Oh, that's fabulous. Thank you.
I would totally understand if you did not get any sleep tonight in anticipation of logging in the morning to see that it worked, because that's kind of a big thing. So
yeah, the reason, well, and it's pretty much a showstopper in this case. So that's one of the reasons I built another sandbox, is, make a long story short, but since I may be able to stick with my Lightning, if I can ask one other question having to do with quick actions in Lightning. The person who made the decision that it's good to have everything named the same, I take issue with that. But other than, so for example, we have the send email quick action. We had to create a Lightning version of. So does anybody have extensive experience in quick actions in Lightning, as to any hints about how best to, other than just hover over and have one? What I ended up doing is naming one differently so I could quickly tell. Does that question make sense? When I look at them all in the page layout, as I go to move it into the button section, there's 3 send email quick action buttons.
Are these, sorry, maybe I missed it. Are these, this is Jared. So are those custom actions that you're looking at?
So
Or are these the standard?
the standard. But they end up looking in the, you have to hover over them because one of them becomes the lightning button. That's just my one example on the email because there's multiple send email buttons. Sorry, if no one's had this problem, we can see if anyone else has questions. I thank you, everybody.
I was going to say, if anybody's got lightning experience that can share with Marty, and you're on mute, let me know in the chat and I'll unmute you.
Yeah, I haven't seen, you're saying there's 2 standard send email buttons that you're seeing?
Yeah, and there was, and again, this could be an issue where the person who, because I created the sandbox obviously from production, that maybe they created another one and maybe it is a custom one that it's just there. So take what I say with a grain of salt based on what I'm working with.
I don't think she's wrong. I've definitely seen tons of similarly named quick actions and global actions. I don't know for specific about send email, but I could log into an org and check, but there definitely seem to be a ton of them and it's hard to know which one is. And then if you create a new one that's your custom one, you're like hunting and pecking for it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I definitely don't doubt that. I was trying to look in my org as well to see. I know that so in Lightning, actions get, for lack of a better term, a little squirrely.
Yes.
Because it all depends on what. First of all, the actions that you see in the top right corner of the page, all are dependent upon how you have them organized. Well, a couple things: how you have them organized within the page layout, the actual legacy page layout, if you will, that's done out of Classic. So you've got the page layout piece where you've got to organize your actions there, and that determines what shows up top. But it also changes if you add the activities component to the page, and you have that there, then that actually is different, right? So that ends up pulling some of the activity actions out of the top header and puts them down within that activities component. So same thing with some of the chatter component and stuff like that. So there's things where what Salesforce is doing, even though I haven't seen it specifically documented anywhere. Maybe it is, but it's basically not repeating those actions. So if you have them somewhere else on the page, it doesn't end up showing that action up there. As far as working through the actions, I mean, that does get a little tricky, right? I mean, what I try to do is just remove the actions that I know I don't want on there first, and then you should be able to see. I was trying to go to my page layout so I could do this a little better. You should be able to see, right, whenever you go to add a new action to that, your custom action or one that works better. So I remove the old ones first, then go in and add my new one. And yeah, I mean, outside of naming, because unfortunately the label you see within the picker, right? Without hovering is the label that the user will see. So, so you basically do have to hover if it's named the same as a standard action,
Right.
For instance. So you do have to hover so you can see the API name, and that's where you can obviously name it custom and drag that in. So yeah, so a lot of times, sometimes you have to start over a bit and drag that off of the page, and then re-add what you need. So
Yeah, that's exactly what I've done. I played the cat and mouse game.
yeah, it's a little tricky right now. Hopefully it becomes a little bit more streamlined.
All right, thank you for all those questions, Marty. We have a question from Alex. Alex, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
All right, great. I am posting. I'm posting the image right now to the page. So I don't know if you can go over to the Trailblazer community. Might have to refresh it.
There we go. It helps if I'm actively on the browser when I try to refresh it. Otherwise, F5 just goes into nowhere.
Okay, so let me explain what I'm dealing with. So we are trying to create a matrix report. And what that report does is we want to, on the left-hand side, we have, let's just say, a bunch of different managers internally in our group. And then we have a bunch of different cars that we're selling, okay? And so we want to know, for all of the accounts out there, who owns the account and what type of car do they have, right? So we go to the first account and the manager's Alex on there, and he has type A. That would put a 1 in Alex's type A box. You follow me so far?
I guess first things first, where is the car type stored? Is this also on the account object, or is this on a child object?
It's on the account object. It's just a pick list.
Okay.
It's a pick list. So anyway, that I can create a matrix report and get all that info, and that's great. What I want to do is there's another pick list field on the account record that I want to include in that matrix report. So the way I kind of see it is, you know, we have 4 different cars and then we have a bus, right? So they're not all part of the same pick list. But I want to know if let's just say again, we're looking at one account. If Alex has an account where that specific account has a pick list where type A is selected, and then there's another pick list where bus is selected, there should be a 1 in the first field and a 1 in the, you know, under the bus field. Does that kind of make sense?
You're essentially trying to put 2 summaries of different pick lists next to each other rather than the traditional primary and secondary grouping.
I guess so.
Hold on, I'm trying to get into my password keeper here to log into a DevOrg.
And so in essence, I figured out kind of a way how to do it, but I run into some issues where I've created another field, and then that field essentially pools whatever value is in the first and second field into it. The problem is if both have a value in it, then I run into some issues. So I'll stop and let you respond, and hopefully some of what I said made some sense.
Okay, so car type is one field, and then bus is in another field.
Yeah, let's just call it like vehicle, right? Or something like that.
Right. So I mean,
I know you can't.
turn green.
But
Turn green.
because what we're having to do right now is we're having to like run 2 different reports, export them into Excel, and then combine them in Excel, which is, a pain in the butt. I mean, it's, hopefully we're trying to figure out a way to automate it.
Dale, is this something that you could do with a Visualforce page?
Oh, I'm sure you absolutely could with Visualforce. The native matrix report, though, won't let you put multiple pick list values next to each other. It will only allow you to enter into a primary grouping and a secondary grouping like this, where, okay, here's all the types, and then per type, here's all the industries, and you're going to, across the top, have duplication because of the permutations. Visualforce, yeah, I would imagine that's relatively simple.
You think I can create, you're saying like a Visualforce, it would be a page though, but could I generate a report off that Visualforce page? Like ideally, once a week, a report gets like sent out to the officers of our company, like with this information.
Right.
I think from the Visualforce page, you can create a PDF export button. I would imagine you'd be able to do the same with Excel. I don't know how to do it, but I think I've seen it done.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so a report, if there's any developers on here to tell me I'm wrong, please do so. But a report is still, at its core, going to go look at data. It's not, a report can't be repivoted to go look at the rendering of a Visualforce page.
Yes.
Have you ventured into dashboards and what you might be able to get? Because, like, if you had 2 tables on a dashboard, one was the vehicle type. Nothing like talking and creating at the same time, so I apologize.
Yeah, you're just saying
one or the other. It would at least give you a representation to have the results right there. It wouldn't be aligned as Alex all the way across the board, but you could at least, of course I don't have a report created to do this, but if there's a table here and another table there, and you said Alex, Joe, Mike, Jennifer, on down the line, I believe, then grouped by vehicle type, you can do primary and secondary grouping on a table, right? Or no?
I don't know on that level, but again, they'd still be separated into 2 different components.
Yeah. If you wanted to go a no-code solution, you're gonna have to have separate elements.
Okay. And I'm open to looking into a coding solution. I was starting to say this. My original idea was I created a 3rd field, and let's just say the customer chose car A, but they didn't have a vehicle, right? So they had a value in the 1st field, but not a value in the 2nd field. Then it would work. And then I just ran the report off that new field I created.
So yeah, I hear what you're saying. Formula field would probably be an if statement that evaluates, first of all, if the 1st field is populated or not, if the 2nd field is populated or not. The only thing that may trip you up on that is then when you return to actually build the report it is going to group by alpha, period. You can't,
By alpha.
alphabetical order. It ceases to be pick list values at that point because your formula field would just simply be a text rendering. And the native behavior on report groupings for text is to sort in alphabetical order. You wouldn't be able to toggle that order without getting really cute on the formula side of things.
Well, that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. Again, the only problem, yeah, that worked. It worked with the exception of if someone has a value in the first field and in the second field, then there's nothing we could do.
Gotcha.
Because it doesn't know which, it can only choose one, right? Because it can't take two different values. It's not a multi-select. And if you do a multi-select, then you run into your, other reporting issues.
So a third-party option to throw into the mix is something like Conga Composer, because you can run these reports that grab data from as many object relationships as you have. So there's no limit like there is within Salesforce. And after you get the data in there, then you could do some magic in Excel with macros and your formatting. So as an example of an efficiency is I had a customer who spent 6 to 8 hours every single Monday building one report. And with Conga Composer, we were able to literally get the whole thing down to a 90-second and one button click process. Now, there was a lot that went into it on the front end as we were trying to figure out what do we want this to look like, how do we want this to work, but it was an incredible solution, and you can use it for all kinds of things. It's not limited just to Excel. Any of your
Oh yeah, you can even export straight to a PowerPoint template and have it render a chart. Conga has come a long way. The only limitation is it's not completely unlimited. You can throw up to 50 references in the URL. 50 is the limit. There's also limitations that get presented on how much data you bring back, like the number of rows or the number of records. But that would then allow you to build it in Excel and show it exactly how you had it, to Jackie's point.
Okay. All right, so it sounds like if I wanted to do this all in Salesforce, with a report that automatically sends something out every Monday, it sounds like without probably a lot of coding that it's not going to happen. Is that fair?
Yeah, to have a solution.
Yeah, if it were my project, I would have a conversation with the developer first and see if the Visualforce page route could be the right solution, because there's no additional dollars involved with that except for configuration.
I'm everything, so I'm as much as the developer as they're going to get.
Okay. So then the other piece would be Conga. So there would be, I think they've got a minimum of, if it's 5 or 8 licenses, but they're extremely inexpensive, and they have the best customer support I have ever seen from an organization. Their rule is if you can't figure it out in 15 minutes, you call them.
Okay. All right. I pulled up their site. I will reach out to them. So thank you.
You're welcome. Glad we were able to talk that through.
Yep.
All right. Looks like we have a question from Corey.
Oh, I'm unmuted. Good.
There we go.
I just have a quick question for the group. I want to know if anybody's tried big objects or studied big objects.
I've seen them as a thing, like on the setup list, and they are enticing, but no.
Oh, okay. I figured I'd throw it out. Instead of pursuing that further, I have another question for the group. Is anyone integrating Marketing Cloud with Sales Cloud?
I know we have people in our practice who are doing it, but I have not had my hands on it.
Oh, okay. I figured I'd throw it out. I don't have I don't have my own marketing cloud to play with, and there are no developer instances, which is something that annoys me all the time. But we do have 6 on campus, and people expect me to advise them on this. So I figured I would give it a try.
Corey, do you know Chris Zullo?
I do.
I would reach out to him. He seems to be a marketing cloud expert.
All right. There we go.
I would
Don't have to
even
know
go
everything.
one step further and say he's the expert's expert.
There you
Nice.
go. 2
I
endorsements.
can't know everything, but if I can know who to call, yeah.
Michael says he's tried to complete the trailhead on big objects, and it was beyond him. It's pretty advanced, and he's not a developer. So I wouldn't be able to do it either.
Yeah, it's nice. I'm really just looking at it as a way of avoiding storage costs. And I know that a lot of us in the ecosystem spend a lot of time and money on solutions to avoid storage costs. So I was wondering if this is a way of avoiding integrations to avoid storage costs, where the storage could be in the big objects, so we don't kind of have to have a separate system to work around storage costs.
Michael, I'm going to unmute you, and feel free to jump in and elaborate on what you were just putting in the chat, if you would, please.
Yeah, so I believe at Dreamforce I don't remember if it was the .org roadmap or the nonprofit roadmap session, whatever they called it, but the .org NPSP folks are planning to build some sort of big objects related solution that's going to help with archiving. I think primarily they were talking about things like campaign members and email send summaries for those organizations that are either deleting or paying for extra storage or archiving that information. They're going to build something that will allow us to automatically move that into big objects so that you can reduce your storage costs. Big objects aren't free, but they'll be cheaper than buying extra storage was their point. I don't know that there's more detail than that yet.
Fantastic. Lots more to study.
Come to the sprint.
When is
Oh,
that
I'll be at
this
the
year?
sprint.
I was going to say, tell us about the sprint.
Oh,
The
yes, let's
next-
talk about the sprints.
Sure. The next NPSP Community Sprint is in Orlando. I'm pulling up my calendar. I want to say it's March 5th and 6th. Nope. Yes, March 5th and 6th.
That's correct. So one thing to know about the sprints, this is a convergent sprint. So in the past, we had NPSP sprints, and they've been going on for a few years. They're marvelous. I went to the NPSP sprint and thought, wow, we need that for higher ed. So we started having higher ed sprints, and we hosted them at Harvard. We had 2 last year. We've decided that it doesn't really make sense to have 2 sprints because there's a lot of overlap between the tools and the ecosystem. So we now have converged open source software sprints, and it's also gone kind of way beyond the NPSP and the HEDA bases, because now we have a lot of layered open source applications as well in the ecosystem. So this is very exciting. It's going to be bigger and better, and a lot more sort of crossover and collaboration between the groups.
Can you tell us what happens at a sprint? This is the first time I'm hearing of this.
Oh, yes, I can. So these sprints are unconference. Maybe you've heard of that term. That's something that that happens in other ecosystems and even non-technology concepts. That means that there's no fixed agenda. We have very sort of minimal to zero possible presentations, prepared presentations. The agenda is really set by the people who show up, and we do a big sort of crowdsourcing effort on creating the tracks and the things that people want to work on, which means we can't predict what's going to come out, but that's better because what's been coming out of these sprints is just some of the most amazing things, incredible inventions, all open source, and things that the community can use. So we've got some nice layered applications that have come out of these sprints. We've got things that have come out of sprints are things like volunteers for Salesforce is something that came out of the sprints that can be used by other people. We've got a grant, outbound grant management solution that another group set up. On the higher ed side, we have what we're calling, I think it's UBU now. We started calling it Mock University. People kind of know what that is right away, but it's basically a pre-configured org that looks like a pre-built university, and we think we could build the same thing for a pre-built nonprofit. So these are just sort of examples. I think that a lot of the things that we're doing on the nonprofit side with these sprints could be moved over to the commercial side and solve problems there as well. So it's something that I've been advocating. But definitely check it out. It's an amazing experience.
I'm so glad that you two brought that up and explained it, because now you've got my wheels turning on potentially lightning sprints for my user group. And so I want to talk to you more about that, Corey. We can do it offline, but I think you might have just given me a potential Kickstarter solution. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Is there a link to a site on March's event?
I'm going to look, but I think the information is in the Power of Us hub.
Okay.
It's going to, registration goes live next week. So we're a little ahead. Look for sort of midweek registration will go out and go live. We do have, the date is fixed, the venue's fixed and all that. They're working on really the branding and the wording and things like that. So I think it goes out on Wednesday.
Gotcha.
Very cool. Thank you.
There are 3 sprints this year. So there's one in the summer in Colorado and one in the fall in Portland, Oregon. So trying to move them around the country so that folks can sort of regionally participate as well.
Great. Okay, have we missed anybody's questions in the chat? I think we addressed everybody. Do we have any other questions or topics that you want to discuss? Scrolling through, I don't see any new posts or anything that I've missed.
Yeah, I don't see anything either.
All right, looks like we've got about 5 minutes left. So any last minute questions, no matter how involved or seemingly elementary, because we all come here with different experiences. So
I've been doing most of the talking, but I do have a question.
Okay, can we put a pin in that just really quick, because we've got Christina Moore who hasn't had an opportunity to ask.
Oh yeah, give someone else a chance.
Thanks, Corey. All right, Christina, you've got the floor.
Hi, I came in late and y'all were talking, so it triggered a question. Do you know if we can create an email, send an email, like a quick action or global action? I don't know which one, I get them confused, but include a choice to choose the email template?
Ooh. Jared, you have, I know you've got a lot of quick action and global action experience. Have you run across the ability or had a need to try that?
So you want to do send an email, quick action or global action, and allow them to select the template?
Yes.
I have not tried that before. So you don't want it pre-selected. You simply want them to.
Yeah, I want to have the choice to select it.
No, I haven't even tried that before.
And I think when I've tried it, it's not really been easy for me to to figure out. So I figured I'd ask. You know, we've got some slow adopting of Chatter, but we did just get it turned around. I got Chatter for Christmas.
Oh, what a wonderful Christmas present.
Yeah. But one of their things was like, oh, well, if we could use, you know, send an email and do the email templates from Chatter, you know, from the quick actions, that would make it worth it, instead of, you know, scrolling down. But okay, so it doesn't look like it's something that maybe is quick off the top of y'all's head, though.
It doesn't sound like it, but you know what I would do if I were you? I would post that question in the answers community so you get the entire world to chime in on what their experiences have been.
Right.
Because someone may have come up with some magic code that that would do the trick for you.
Right. Well, and I've seen that you can do it if you select a template, but not give them the option to choose the template. So, okay.
Yeah. And the other probably unpopular solution would be, you know, 2 separate buttons that are labeled, I don't know, creatively, but
yeah, there would be a bunch of buttons. So
yeah. I mean, depending on how many you had, I would post it to the answers and see what they come back with, because I'm sure you're not the only one who's asked that.
Yep. Okay. Thanks.
You got it. All right. Anyone else? Corey, can you ask your question in 59 seconds?
59 seconds, maybe. I got a note, I think it was from Dale, about the time fields. I'm excited about the idea that the time fields may actually store milliseconds, not just you know, have them as something you can stage. That's something you saw?
If it's not out already, it's an accidental bug right now in Lightning that it's showing milliseconds. In Classic, it just shows you hour, minute. But they are rolling out, if they haven't already, time functions that go all the way down to the millisecond, which theoretically would mean they're going to show it eventually. I may have just violated Safe Harbor, but there are or will be hour, minute, second, and millisecond functions associated with time, which would lead me to think you can show them as well. Actually, time math will be pivoted off of the millisecond. That's another fun thing that came out of my conversation with Vlad yesterday, is when you want to do math on time, you're going to have to know that it takes 1,000 milliseconds to do a second, times 60 to get to a minute, times 60 to get to an hour. So the math is there. How it's rendering, yeah, I'm going to back away slightly and say I think it will be showed.
Yeah, just storing them is a really big deal, because when you're doing integrations, the seconds are not fine enough to guarantee uniqueness. So it is a really big deal.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We've gone over.
All right, that brings us to the end of our hour together. Thank you, everyone. Such great conversation, wonderful topics. I hope you'll join us again on February 2nd, or if we have a surprise call between now and then, we'll announce that on Twitter and, of course, in the community. And then watch for the all of these links and recommendations that Dale was capturing as everyone was chatting. We'll put those on the Trailblazer community as well. Have a great weekend, everyone, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.